A little known interest of mine on the internet is American history. But if you look in the description of my YouTube channel, it says my interests are history. Now, my oldest obsession has been American history, but more particularly the U.S. presidents. Now, I'm going to tell you a fun story. Franklin Delano Roosevelt has always been my favorite president. Well, not always, but for the past, I want to say 3 years, he's been my favorite U.S. president, which I feel is a substantial amount of time. But why is Franklin Roosevelt my favorite U.S. president? I'm going to dive into that with you today. Franklin Roosevelt is my favorite American president for 3 reasons. There are more, but I'm just going to list 3. But before I get into those reasons, who was Franklin Delano Roosevelt? Well, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the 32nd U.S. president from 1933 until his death in 1945. He was born on January 30th, 1882 in Hyde Park, New York, and died on April of 1945. So why is Franklin Roosevelt my favorite president? Well, let's begin. Franklin Roosevelt dealt with major issues in his life, and I like to consider them big, medium, and small. So let me characterize that for you. Now, the first big issue that Roosevelt dealt with in his life was his health. Franklin Roosevelt was notoriously known for having polio, which was uncommon because that was mostly a disease that children got, but he was 39 when he contracted it. He never walked properly ever again, but the public didn't know that he was suffering from this horrible disease, and there were even times where he stood when it was really important, and it was very, very painful never using a wheelchair when he was in public. So that's one of the first reasons that he's my favorite U.S. president. The fact that he endured such pain in public and didn't let his disability stop him. Now, the second reason he's my favorite American president is his handling of the Great Depression. Now, the Great Depression started in 1929, and essentially, it was the greatest economic downfall of all time. And when Roosevelt became president in 1933, he was quick to create many programs to create jobs. This is called the New Deal, to those of you who are not Americans. And it was influential to how we got out of the Depression, creating new jobs and stuff like that. Though the one thing I can criticize is he's given a lot of the credit, but to be honest, a lot of his programs did not do much for the economy. But that's besides the point. Now, the third and most foremost reason why Franklin Roosevelt is and most likely will always be my favorite president is World War II. World War II started in 1939 when Germany invaded Poland on September 1st, and France and the UK declared war a few days later. In the later years, Roosevelt signed a law that said we have to be neutral until
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Now, on this date, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, which was a military base in Hawaii. Now, the next day, Franklin Roosevelt convinced Congress to declare war on Japan, and then a few days later, its allies, Italy and Germany, declared war on the U.S. It was a long war overall, and I feel that Franklin Roosevelt's handling of it is legendary. I don't think that anyone else could have handled it the way he did. And then Roosevelt unfortunately died just 3 weeks before Germany kind of fell with the resulting in the death of the leader of Germany. It was just a few months before Harry Truman dropped the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, thus ending the war in the Pacific. He was also the only president to serve more than 2 terms. He served 4 terms, and he was a really great human being. Though there are shortcomings to him, the fact that he forced the Japanese Americans into internment camps, basically American concentration camps. He forced them into exile just because of where they were from. There was no proof that they had anything to do with Pearl Harbor and the war going on, but they were put into internment camps, which particularly affects me because as a Star Trek fan, George Takei, who played Mr. Sulu, was in those camps, so Roosevelt got points deducted for that. But overall, Franklin Roosevelt is my favorite president, and I don't think he will ever be topped. Maybe Abraham Lincoln, but as of now, he will never be topped. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. A bit of a different and much longer video than I usually create, but make sure to like and subscribe because I want to get more subscribers. Please, thank you. Goodbye.